Now, we're talking about resistance, and I like to lead into these things with a little bit of a I think we all know what resistance is, but it's always good to have a definition to work from that we're all working from the same page. So, resistance is the refusal to accept or comply with something, the attempt to prevent something by action or by argument. So she put up no resistance to being led away. I guess she was being arrested in that case. And then the ability to not be affected by something, especially adversely. Some of us, for example, have a lower resistance to cold than others. What a great example. I have a very low resistance to cold these days. And so there, a little bit of a definition to work with.
Well, it's come up a couple of times, and the word resistance means to me is that what are you resisting? What are you not wanting to look at? What are you not maybe wanting to change? What are you denying? What are you pushing against? And when you think about resisting something, there's two ways of looking at it. For me, the first one is, what are you not wanting to hear? What are you not wanting to know? What are you pretending not to know? So that it creates a kind of a stop gap in what it is that you're thinking or doing or wanting to do. And the second thing is what is it that you don't want to maybe have flow around? You have a line that you use all the time is don't force the river.
Mhm.
And I find sometimes when I'm trying to force the river, there's something else that I'm resisting. It's either an awareness, a truth, a reality check, something that I'm resisting. So I'm either not wanting to know something, I'm pretending not to know something, or I'm trying to push the river. So resistance becomes something actually it manifests quite physically in me. I can feel like a charge in my body. My shoulders get tight, my jaw gets tight, and I kind of dig in. So I think as we unpack the word resistance, and there's so many different angles and dimensions to it, I think it'll be interesting to see where this conversation goes, especially because we want to link it to communication and relationship.
Well, there's a couple of things around this, right? Which is in the context of resistance, sometimes we're not even aware of the resistance that is showing up. And, in the context of mindset and how mindset matters, we look at different topics that we bring forward. We're saying, well, where is resistance going to impact us and some of the goals that we were trying to achieve? Where are we bumping up against this seemingly glass ceiling? Where is the resistance to being able to move forward? Why is that happening? Total off a little bit of a rabbit hole, if you will. But when we look at, I say about resistance, there is, physical, we believe, and we have lots of illustrations over the years that resistance sometimes shows up, and the sign that we get is a physical manifestation of something. So, and I've just totally lost her name in the moment, but when you look at a physical manifestation, so for example, a knee injury, a lower extremity injury is
Oh,
usually the
Louise Hay.
Louise Hay. So is that resistance to moving forward. And, over the years where I have had injuries, where I have had those moments in time where I physically manifested something, it was in reflection and in thinking about it that I realized where that resistance was. What was always interesting about it every single time is that when I became aware of what I was resisting, all of a sudden it let go. And it took an injury. We've used this phrase many times, which is, the universe sends us signals. But don't worry if you don't hear it, because it'll just turn up the volume. And often that volume that it turns up shows up, as a physical manifestation of an injury or something along that lines. And some who are listening are going, you guys are whack jobs. What the hell are you talking about right now? But listen, this has been our experience, and we've seen it and proven it many times over the course of years, not just personally, but as we've seen it in others as well.
I think if don't step over the Louise Hay piece of it. She wrote a book called "You Can Heal Your Life," and she's written many. It's Hay House books. Actually, she passed away a couple of years ago at 92 years old. Cured herself of breast cancer, and she did a lot of work in the HIV and AIDS world, and really talked about vibrational healing. And when we talk about resistance and knees, because we both had knee injuries, it was a
Mhm.
unwillingness to be flexible. I think that's sort of the the trait when you have a knee injury. There's a resistance, an unwillingness to be flexible. And that, thanks for bringing that up, because that's where that resistance comes for me, is that I have an unwillingness to be flexible, maybe to drop my guard, drop my opinion, drop my ego around something. And then I have that resistance in my body, and then something generally gives. And I'm just not
So,
prepared. Oh, sorry.
no, you go ahead.
I just say I'm not prepared to keep injuring myself. If I'm noticing a message that I'm getting or an intuition or something and I'm resisting it, I take a breath and I look underneath it now, because the line that I like to use is, what you resist persists.
Mhm.
What you resist persists. So I'm not talking about resisting, negativity or trying to push back against tyranny and all that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about that kind of resistance. I'm talking about resistance to the things that could move your life forward. And what are you pushing back against? What are you resisting in terms of growing or being flexible or having flow in your life?